Good afternoon and welcome to the May 30 Historic Preservation Board. I'm Tom Combs, I'm the board chair. I'll call the meeting to order. First thing on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the April 4th meeting, if everyone received them and had a chance to take a look at them. Any comments, questions, edits, etc.? Motion for approval?
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to flip our agenda around a bit. We want to move up the Clark House update with Andrew Harder's here from Bergman, and we're going to turn the floor over to him so he can come and go and be on his way. And then we'll get back to the rest of the agenda just after that. So it's all yours. The floor is all yours.
Is the mic out? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So we just wanted to give an update. We're selecting materials for the event space, which is the new addition adjacent to the Clark House, attached to the Clark House. So we brought some material selections that we've been working with the town on, and we thought we would share them with the board and see what your opinions are of the material. The only material that we have a choice to make when we would be presenting to the board tonight would be the siding for the new facility. We can start with that. We have two choices to pick from. We can start with that. I don't know, do you want to pass the material around? Do you want to see it, touch it? I brought it here, so I have it.
If it's easy to pass around, I think we'd like to,
sure.
to touch it, feel it.
Sure. So the first material that we have for selection is the siding. We've been looking at a material by James Hardy. It's a cement board, basically, a fiber cement board. And it's pretty much the same dimensions as typical siding would be, wood siding would be. So let me pass that around.
Are these the true colors?
Those would be the actual colors, yes. It's a white and I believe a charcoal gray or almost black for the siding. The other material that we're looking at is a fly ash material, which is a little bit thicker on the profile than typical wood siding would be. We do like the Hardy board because of its durability and its warranty. It's a 30-year warranty. It comes painted. This we'd have to paint, and it's kind of the material we're heading towards, but we wanted to share it with the board. This is the fly ash board here.
And just background for everybody, Jennifer Ahrens from Barrow Architecture has looked at all of these materials and approved and kind of looked at everything and made some decisions on what she thought were good materials to then pass along to you guys for the final decisions.
But she hasn't voiced a preference
No,
between them?
she has not.
She's
no.
not. But did you say that you were leaning towards one?
Yeah, we met with the town committee last week on the materials, and they were kind of leaning towards the Hardy board because of its.
This the first one. Too.
The first one we passed around because of its durability. I know Eric Tate had mentioned there'll be mowing of lawns and material around close to the siding. This could take a rock, an errant rock chip, and it would be fine. The fly ash.
I missed. What was this siding?
It's
Was
called
it just regular wood.
It's called fly ash. It's a material they make out of fly ash, which is a byproduct of charcoal.
So the Hardy material feels it feels like it might crack or something, but it doesn't.
It's very, very durable.
No.
Yeah.
It feels like tile.
Except that
It does a little bit.
these
yes.
samples are for panels, not for siding, but
Correct.
will they have, like, this one has a grain shown, these don't. Are you planning to have grain,
No, we were planning smooth, no grain.
smooth, all of it?
So it kind of matches the Clark House.
And with this, would you have smooth as well?
Yes, we just showed the two. One was smooth and one wasn't, just to give you to show you the profile, what it would look like. The other decision that we wanted to kind of bring to the board also was not only the selection of the material, but the spacing of the planking between the siding. So the existing Clark house, the siding has a 5-inch reveal. So every 5 inches carries up to the next panel for siding.
And that material will match that?
Well, we have a choice between, for the hardy planks, we can go, just get my notes here. So for the hardy board, you can go 2 different exposures, a 7-inch or a 10 3/4 inch.
Oh, wait a second. You're not talking siding, you're talking panel. Hardy board siding comes in 4 and 6.
From what I understand, it does, you can get it in different panelized that have a different exposure.
If it's a panel, it's not going to overlap, it's going to be like this.
Correct, but each board can be lapped,
Why are you using,
so it looks
why are you
like siding.
choosing that, not siding?
It is siding, and you can get it at different heights, so you can provide different laps. So you can get a lap of 7 inches or a lap of 10 3/4.
So it does overlap then?
They do overlap like
Yeah, I
siding
understand,
material.
but that's not the typical siding, hardy siding. Okay, because that will be quite a difference from what, of the original exposure, which is 5 inches.
Yeah, this isn't going on the Clark house itself, it's going on the addition.
But you're saying it would not match the
Well,
house?
original house siding exposure, you said, is 5
5
inches. Here, you would have 7 inches.
Or 10
Or 10.
3/4.
Well, 10 is totally out of it, right?
We did prepare a couple elevations to show the difference, if you wanted to see those.
Okay.
Right, and just background for everybody, Megan can probably speak to this as well, but when you have an addition to a historic building, you want it to look congruent, but you want to be able to tell the difference between the two, which is why we're trying to have a different spacing rather than copying the original of the Clark house. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
It's kind of hard to see
For the new.
the difference, but to the right, on that first one, you can see it's a 7-inch
Let's clarify that.
Okay.
compared to the 5-inch. So it's kind of hard to see in the renderings, but we'll pass them around, you can see it.
So this isn't replaced, just to be clear, it's not replacing anything in the house?
Correct. We're not we're not making any decisions about materials on the house, on the 1832 house that we're saving. This is only decisions for the new addition for the lodge
I
event
see.
space.
Okay.
Yep, that's all we're deciding on right now.
Okay.
So these two sheets kind of show the elevation difference between a 10 3/4 inch reveal and a 7-inch or lap. I think, yeah, so
I guess you can keep it, I've seen it.
they already have it.
Yep. They're only looking at the one, though.
They got the same picture?
They only have one.
Yeah, the other ones.
They're different.
So I think you guys have the 10 3/4 inch reveal, option 2. To the right, there's like a little dimension.
Completely different, because 7 is kind of almost
10 3/4 inch. So you can see this is 10 3/4 inch. Those are the seams.
right.
This one,
Yeah, this doesn't.
I can't.
7-inch.
So you don't think that the lap is going to look funny? We're not using a beveled siding?
It is bevel.
The hardy board's beveled? It didn't look like it was beveled.
And there's going to be that transition piece.
These are just
to a
samples for
public
color.
bathroom, So that's where that dark
Correct.
gray is. Yeah, I was going to point that out next, yeah. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, that one shows,
This is the 7. It is a little bit hard to
it's
tell.
hard to tell.
This is the 10.
And it's not necessarily a decision we need to make tonight either, but at least with the material we'd like to get for the submission that we're making to the town, we're doing 50% drawings. So we want to get those drawings into the town to start reviewing next month. So we don't need to necessarily make a decision on the plank, but the Hardy Board, we'd like to try to make a decision on that, or the fly ash.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, and I apologize, I misunderstood. I thought you were replacing the original siding, but additions should be different. So, kind of, I changed my statement before. In my opinion, 10 inches exposure would be better, only because it's really different
Right.
from existing, and also the building is elongated, so a wider stripes wouldn't make it look so long.
Yep, I agree with that.
I don't know if anybody has any comments from historical point of view.
Yeah, is the sound?
It's just on,
Okay. Yeah, I think at first I was thinking the 7-inch, but now hearing what you're saying and seeing these drawings up on the screen too, because the building is so long, I think the 10-inch might look nice on there. It's differentiating enough, but still looking similar to the historic house. Yeah, I think now I'm changing my mind that I do like the 10-inch exposure a little more.
All right, well, I think we've got two things to opine on. The first is the Hardy versus the other.
Fly ash.
Well, definitely hardy.
Definite Hardy.
It's a better material, yeah.
It's a really good product.
Any other comments? So everyone's okay with that?
What's the price point between the two?
I don't have that information, but the Hardy's probably a little more expensive, but I think it lasts a lot longer.
Right, because we're also looking at the maintenance point of view and how much maintenance the town will have to do on the building. And the fiber cement hardy board is definitely better for the maintenance perspective.
30-year warranty on the color and a 15-year warranty on the product.
And what's the warranty on the other material?
That, I believe it's 5 years.
Quite a difference.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I am not familiar with fly ash.
Yeah.
Who makes it? Is it similar to Smart Board,
It's very similar
Smart Trim?
from what they're telling me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think
then
I've
it's
ever
not that
seen it.
durable. Right.
Okay, does any other general concerns with the Hardy decision? Okay, should we just take a vote for fun?
Yeah, if you guys
All right,
want.
let's take a vote on that. All in favor of Hardy? We don't need the,
Yeah, just raise hands, I guess, to make sure we have the majority.
okay. Okay. And the second decision is the 10-inch versus 7 gap between them all, amongst them all. Then we've heard a couple of 10-inch suggestions or recommendations. Megan, we heard from you. Steve, Mike?
10 inches the width of wood.
It's the,
Versus 7 inch.
Versus
Yeah.
10
I think the 10 inch.
Yeah.
7 inch might look a little bit.
Steve?
Well, I guess I agree with the 10 inch, just because of the size of the building.
Yeah.
Is that what Mira was talking about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, that's unanimous. Oh, I'm sorry, Chuck? You're,
What? Oh, I know, the
That's-
10 inches,
10.
the way to go.
okay,
Yep.
sorry, I skipped over you.
And then those color samples, is that that darker gray color is for that transition piece between the addition and the original Clark House, like we kind of talked about before. And that will be the public restrooms. That will be that dark gray, and then the rest of it will be the white color.
Yeah. Okay, then that decision is
Great.
is made from our
Siding is
standpoint.
done.
We are using Versatex for the trim work on the building, the window trim and corner trim, so I can pass this along too. It shows it as a textured, but it would be smooth. But I can show you.
Is that similar to AZAC?
So this goes with the trim work with the hardy board, and it'll be smooth, not rough, but that's the sample we have. So it'll be the trim around the windows and the corner boards, soffit.
Yeah. So that's not attached to the hardy board?
It's attached to the building,
Is it?
yeah, as a trim, and then the hardy board is butt up against it. It'll have a reveal on it. You can see the corner piece kind of has a reveal.
So the question that I have, why did you go with Versatex, which is a good material, versus using hardy trim?
I don't remember why we picked it that way, but we felt that this is a better product.
It is a better product.
Yeah.
I just don't know when they build it, if it would be easier to build with hardy trim than with this.
They say that it goes
Doesn't
with
matter?
hardy trim, yeah.
Okay.
It can be used as trim for hardy board. Yep.
Okay.
But it does physically attach to the hardy, even though,
It's a trim, so it would attach to the building first, and then the hardy board would butt up against it. And you can see there's like one piece, the corner piece, it's exaggerated, but the hardy board would go into that
we go
space
into
there.
this
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Okay. And then it would be caulked or something to...
Yep, exactly, yep.
Okay, any comments, concerns with that? Okay. There wasn't an option on that one. That was-
That's what the committee picked, so we brought that. yeah. And really, the rest of these options, there's really no options, the rest is just what were selected. So if there's any issues, let us know, and we can go back and look at an alternative.
Okay.
So all the windows and storefront will be aluminum and framed, and the color will be black. That's the color the town picked. So I'm sending around a little sample of showing that black color aluminum storefront. So it'll be all the windows, doors, or the windows and the storefront glass at the main entrance. Will all be out of that. It's a tube light materials, the manufacturer. Typical for a commercial building.
Is that the windows?
That is,
Yes, you can.
that's the
prepare.
spandrel glass that'll be used for the faux dormers on the roof. So those 3 dormers on I think it's I forget what direction that is. That you
That's the
see on
east
your
side,
screen,
yeah.
the south, and then on the north, the 2. Those will be faux dormers. From the inside, you won't see a dormer. From the outside, you'll see a dormer. So we're putting in spandrel glass to show like there's a window there, an operable window, but it'll just be spandrel glass, which is the sample I'm sending around now.
Yeah.
Is this a tinted?
That one is tinted, yep, and that's a color to be selected still, but We're showing, I forget that version, but it is tinted a little bit.
So you won't be seeing something, a space inside?
Yeah, the back side of the glass you'll see has a color to it, so you can't see through it. So it appears like glass from the outside, but it really, you can't see through it like regular glass.
Would the windows, real windows, be tinted too?
The windows will probably not be tinted, but we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
Maybe I missed it when I was bringing that up. Would there be a reason, well, you said the color of the glass for those dormers hasn't been selected, right? Or that they do want to go with tinted?
They do want to do a tinted glass, yes. We just haven't selected the color yet.
Okay. And is there a reason for tinted versus going with a clear glass like the rest of the
It just
building?
gives it, the tinted glass makes it feel like more of real glass, if that makes sense. 'Cause you can't-
Makes it feel like
There's no
what?
light behind it, there's no space behind it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it. Tinted glass makes it feel more like what?
Like real glass, like you're getting a reflection off of it.
And if you had just clear glass, you would see the backing?
You'd see the backing a little bit more, yeah.
Well, you see that there's a blank space there, I mean, just, it's not a room or
There's no
something.
room or anything
Yeah.
behind it. It has this
Yeah, I mean, I would buy that.
behind it here, so you can see. You know, we haven't, like I said, gotten into the detail yet of the color selection for the tint. The regular windows, we may tint. We haven't gotten that far yet. So if we did, we'd match them.
So can you suggest to use as the lightest tint possible? And not green?
And not green, you said?
Yeah. Well, sometimes they
They do.
have this greenish tinted glass.
Yeah.
It will look,
What color would be
well, gray,
the
but
gray?
This one here is a warm gray. It's the one that you saw. So,
Okay.
I did misspeak. There is a selection we can make still, and it's on the cultured stone for the fireplace and foundation around the new addition. So we have two items here we could select from. One, these are the cultured stone that'll go around the new fireplace on the outside and the inside. Also be around the patio wall.
Patio.
So we have, this is kind of like a shale style, very linear. And then the other one is like kind of like a limestone.
so is the one to the right, is it more like original stone at the basement?
I think this one here is more of the original because there's odd shapes that are kind of making up. But, you know, there's not a lot, on the exterior of the building, you can't see much of it because it's a very small exposure. Yeah, Shannon, could you bring up a,
Shannon, you were trying to show the building?
Yeah, trying to show you guys a picture of what the Clark House looks like right now. Yeah, so the foundation is, a little messy, but
more of a larger block, or rock, I should say.
Okay, and where will we have stone on the new building?
It'd be on,
Just in the connection?
it'd be facing the fireplace
Okay.
on the north wall.
Oh.
And inside, it'll be inside the building and exterior, and then around the patio. There's a small landscape wall around the patio.
Well, I guess my first thought is that we, just as we talked about with the siding, we wanted to have it be different. And if, in the larger stones are sort of trying to match what's in the old house.
True.
So, but Any other comments? I guess what I was concluding that we didn't want to
You don't want to get
necessarily
too
match.
matchy, right, yeah, makes sense. These do come in different colors too, which I have prints of if we want to see it, but we haven't selected color yet. We were just trying to get a shape first.
What colors might there be? What do you think of? What are you thinking?
I don't know. I don't like this stuff.
So this is the shale. Different colors of the shale.
What, is this the second stone in your hand?
Be the one closest. to
No,
where I
the
was
one that's your, no, the one in your hand. What is this?
This is the other.
The other one.
The other one.
May I see?
There's the, on the other side is this, the other colors.
How high is that landscape wall?
It's about 18 inches, 12 to 18 inches. It's pretty low.
Okay. I don't see a big difference here, except that these colors are more interesting than these.
What we wanted to do
It's
is,
a mix, more.
if we can get a shape or a style of stone, then we can get samples, we can get live samples of the color. So you're not picking from a piece of
Right,
paper.
right. So if you guys have a strong preference on the size first, and then from there, we can get physical samples of different colors, so it's a little bit easier to see rather than the printouts.
Otherwise, I'd need
Yeah.
2 pickup trucks worth of.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I have a preference between the two styles. I think the one you're holding there that's elongated, it'll make it look a little more modern, which it is a new building. The other one, although it has more of the random-sized stone to it, more like the historic house's foundation, I still think it's different enough that it really isn't trying to match necessarily. I guess I'm just thinking through in my head is the one that would look a little more modern, is that going to make it almost how we were talking about the 10-inch reveal on the siding because of the length of the building, so liking the wider reveal to kind of help it not seem so long. Would that more modern one be that way? But
Would you please look at those two pages? It looks like there is a very different color selection. The more modern one has very limited color variation.
And there's no variation within the color.
Exactly. yeah.
What
More
do,
uniform
I mean,
color.
what does your, okay, you have architects on your team, so what do they suggest? Do they do color coordination between stones? Do they have a preference?
I think their preference was this one.
Okay,
because
and which
it
one?
matches more of a stone that you would get locally anyway, typically. And it's less like,
Oh, this one in the color or in the shape?
just the shape.
The shape, and did they have a color?
We didn't get as far
They
as color
didn't
yet.
that far, but I think there are few there where you can pick up the color of the siding
Exactly.
and coordinate it better. I would, if I were working it, I would do that,
Yeah.
yeah.
You would go with this shape because it has more options.
And the color, and a color that would tie together. So what will happen is that the color will tie together with addition, but the shape kind of would reflect somewhat of existing building, so that addition is not totally foreign.
yeah, I agree. Now that I'm looking at these, just seeing the sample, just looking at the samples here, you can see a little bit more what it will look like when it's installed. And I do think, I agree, I think the one that has the more variation in size of stone, it still reads as modern, so it goes with a new building, but a little less, I feel like the narrower, you said it's more shell-like. I think that's one of those things that kind of comes into style and then goes out quickly, and then how soon, does it want to be changed out kind of thing.
Andrew, is that the Profit or the Country? Which, the larger stone one? Just looking at my list here, and it doesn't have a description.
Good question. Oh, it's the Country.
That's the
Ledge.
Country?
This is the
Okay.
Country Ledge.
Gotcha.
Is
Thank
it,
you.
the manufacturer, is it real cultured stone, or what's the manufacturer?
I think it's concrete to make it look like stone. I'm pretty sure.
No, on the right, I can see, what does it say? It's cultured
Yeah, it's cultured stone.
stone. That's one of the most expensive stones.
It's pretty expensive. Yep.
I believe it will be value engineered during construction.
You think so? Okay. Well, we are doing a cost estimate as
that-
part of this new application.
That brand name is one of the most expensive, face stones, because they are the original. I mean, they're like Kleenex of the stone. That's why it's called cultured stone. And they're more expensive than others. It's very good. I mean, it's thick and good quality. So just try to keep it on the building.
Yeah, we are doing a cost estimate as part of our 50% submission, so we'll see what the cost is. And
You will see that other stones are only like 1.75 or 2 inches thick, and this one is like almost 3 inches, 2 3/4. It's thicker and it's better quality.
Is there a mortar that's put in those?
Correct.
As well? Right. Chuck, you got a chance to see those?
Yes.
And any further comments, discussion, preferences? I'm hearing more preference for the cultured stone. You went the other way? Well, and we don't need unanimity. Consensus is all we need. Steve?
I like cultured stone.
Cultured? Megan, I think we heard your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think either would work, but if I had to choose right now, I would say the cultured
Cultured.
stone.
And,
I would go with the cultured also.
all right. All right, then that brings us to unanimity, so.
Okay.
And the color will come later. That's a
Yeah, the
later-
color will come later. We want to coordinate it with the interior finishes for the space, so when we do that, we can bring it back and
Yeah.
show you.
Okay.
I think the only thing left are the shingles for the roof, and this will be on the Clark House and the new addition as well. It's an asphalt shingle, charcoal color, darker color. And I'm making a mess on your table, I apologize. So that's,
Those are regular asphalt
Yep.
shingles?
architectural style.
So this is not for a vote, this is an FYI.
What's been selected?
Yeah, unless you guys have strong opinions against it, right.
I think we talked about that earlier.
It's certainly not going to
Months
look very
ago.
historical on the Clark House.
Yeah.
It is, it is, I think the Clark House has.
The Clark
asphalt
House
shingles on it
currently
today.
has asphalt shingles, yes.
It probably didn't
Architectural
when it was
shingle.
built, though.
No,
it wasn't
but,
the original.
right, we don't really know what it had when it was built,
I would
unfortunately.
guess it would be cedar shakes.
Probably.
Okay, I think we're all okay with that.
Great.
I'd prefer something else on the Clark House. I mean, it doesn't look anything like what would have been on there. I'd just see like a metal or shake or something.
Does
Is it-
existing house have metal shake?
The metal shakes they make now, you can't even tell them apart from wood, and certainly would be a good hold up, it'd hold up well, but I think it would look better.
Andrew, were those looked at? No.
Not that I recall, we didn't look at anything else but asphalt shingle.
Metal shakes are extremely expensive.
Well, so is hardy board and PVC trim, but
Yeah, we haven't really looked at the, the fixing up of the existing Clark House in extreme detail yet, so we're more looking at the addition.
well, if you're asking us to select the addition, I don't have a preference what that is, but I do
Okay.
have a preference on what goes on the Clark House.
Sure, then that can be a further discussion.
Yeah, we can come up with other options and
All
come
right,
back to
let's-
the board.
let's do that
The
then.
current
Oh,
Clark
so
House
this was
three
for
tab?
the original Clark
not
House
sure.
as well?
I don't know if Andrew.
We were proposing to put it on the original Clark House as well as the addition, yes. If the board would like us to look at
So
an alternative for the Clark House,
What was
we can.
historically on the original house on the roof?
I don't know personally.
No, no?
Do you know, is it currently a three-tab
Cedar shake for
asphalt
sure.
on the Clark House?
I don't, per the pictures, it looks like can you grab the picture?
Yeah, I can pull.
We had a pretty extensive discussion a few months ago now about trying to pick a date in history that you were trying to match the house to when we were discussing the chimney. And that date would certainly predate the use of asphalt shingles. So I would vote
definitely would.
against the asphalt shingles on the Clark House roof.
It's hard to tell from that picture if it's 3-tab or architectural.
I feel like it looks like it's architectural. I'm kind of seeing,
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's architectural, because that's what's on
Yeah.
the cart barn, too. They probably did both roofs at the same time. Okay.
But that can be, a later discussion,
Yeah.
unless you guys, any other input you want to add, of course.
So we want to use something more period correct for the Clark House, or
Yep.
something that gives you the period look, I guess.
Yeah.
At least some options to look at, maybe?
Okay, okay. One other item, which I don't have a sample for, but there's going to be a fence that goes around the HVAC and generator unit on the addition. And in the elevation, it's kind of hard to see, but it's in between
Yeah.
the Clark House and our new
Yep.
addition. We were just going to propose a cedar wood horizontal slat, though, instead of vertical. We put them horizontally,
Like what's shown in the
like
in the
what's shown
picture.
here, yeah. We could stain it to a darker color. I would think we would prefer to use real wood if it's butting up against the existing house.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to see what the board thought of that.
So it would be, you'd use treated lumber for that?
Well, I was proposing cedar.
So cedar, okay.
So town would have to maintain it,
Correct.
yeah.
The alternative would be some kind of vinyl or plastic material, potentially. It could be a wood or a metal slatted material, too. You can get if wood.
Yeah, we were thinking, a wood fence would be most appropriate because it will be abutting right up to the Clark House.
Yeah.
And there'll be a gate. We'll have to put a gate in that fence to allow for access into the space.
Well, cedar's nice. It, of course, wouldn't be painted then, right?
Yeah, we could stain it to a color, which we could provide you guys some ideas on what that would be, or we could let it gray, natural, over time.
I like the idea of wood, but town
It's a pretty small area to maintain, so
Right.
I
It's
think
not a
Eric
lot.
Tate was okay with having it be wood.
Correct.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big area, wasn't miles of fence, so. Okay, so
All right.
we can come back, once we pick the color of the cultured stone, we can bring that back to the board to look at, and we'll also come back with some options for period correct roofing for the Clark House.
And do you know if there's a schedule to finish this planning stage?
Yeah, at the moment, I don't have it in front of me, but the idea is to have 50% drawings to the town mid-June. They have a few weeks to review them, and then we would finalize the construction drawings sometime early fall, and then bid out this year before next year. So the bidding would happen this year for construction in spring of '25.
Okay.
Kind of the overall schedule.
Can you please zoom into the building so that we could see the dormers? I kind of feel that the windows in these dormers need a mullion in the middle.
Okay.
Do you agree?
I tend to agree, yeah.
Because they kind of look like blind eyes this
Yeah.
way.
What are you thinking of?
No, just
Horizontal
just
or
vertical line
Vertical
in the
Just
middle.
one vertical?
Yeah. No, just one vertical.
Yep, that's easy to do.
And the windows down below, I don't suppose they'll be venting.
To be, sorry,
Will they have a vented
operable?
operable pane or not?
That's a great question.
What are they? Are they sliding or they just like a storefront?
I think they're just storefront and not operable. But I'd have to double check to make sure I'm right. Do you remember?
Well, yeah,
Janet?
I'm not the client, so is that what your client wants?
Yeah, that's what I think the
That's what
client
they
wants,
wanted?
yeah.
Okay.
But I'll double check, and when we come back, we'll make sure we review that with you, what the final selection is on the windows.
Okay, any other comments, questions for Andrew?
Did I forget anything, Shannon?
No? Colleen sent me a list of questions, but
Oh, that's
that was from Barrow.
Yep.
So I think, are you all set with all the material stuff? I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think we're done with the material.
Great.
Yeah.
So do you have any kind of specs started on the house? Because it seems like there's going to be some materials we'll have to select on that.
Yeah, the Barrow's providing that for us, so we'll have that as part of our 50% set.
So that doesn't exist yet.
Not yet, but it will be here shortly.
Okay.
No, but I actually do have a couple of questions from Barrow about the Clark House itself. So if we're ready to roll into that. Okay. So there are plugs in the siding where insulation was blown in the past. Are there preferences on if those are to be removed and provide solid wood plugs or kept as a record of changes over time? And I do have some photos.
Remove them.
What'd you say?
Remove them.
Okay. They're a little bit kind of difficult to see, but these teeny little plugs, I think I have a better photo, kind of plugs randomly throughout the siding of the Clark House itself. So the question is to either leave them as they are to show a record of, changes over time, or to plug them with, let's see, solid wood plugs so that you wouldn't really see it. It'd be more flush.
I'd like to not see any plugs at all, so they've got a fair amount of clapboard to repair, so they could probably come up with enough to repair it, so there's no plugs in the siding at all.
Okay, any other opinions, preferences?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't see any practical reason to have them out there.
Okay.
I'd agree. I don't think I'd want to advertise that there's blown-in insulation.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a advertised record of change situation. Is everyone in agreement? Yeah, okay, great, that was easy. The next one, Do we want to replace the fasteners at the siding, or where the nail heads are to be sanded, primed, and painted? So some of the nail heads kind of have some rusting. It was a little bit, I had a bit of a hard time finding photos, but you can kind of see these ones on this side in particular of the house. You have some rusted nails. So the question is, should those nail heads be retained, sanded, primed, and painted so that, you don't see the rust anymore, or replace the fasteners with something more modern? I don't think you'd necessarily see the difference, but it's more of a maintaining historic materials or changing to something more
I think
modern.
you'd cause more damage to the clapboard, taking them out and putting new fasteners in, so countersink them, plug them, and paint it.
Okay, everyone agree on that?
Yeah.
Any opinions? Yeah, keep them? Okay. Great, you guys are sailing right through this.
Shannon, where did these questions come from?
These are straight from Barrow.
Okay.
Yep, I assume that they were in the process of reviewing the changes and updating and getting the Clark House just more
Getting the
fit,
specs together.
the rehabilitation process, and kind of came across these questions and wanted to bring them to you guys. Okay, so this one is that one of the posts of the east porch does not have the same details. Let's see. So this post does not have the same details as the other posts on the porch. So the question was to replace this corner post to match the other ones, or to leave it as it is.
Replace it to match it, I would say.
Yeah,
I
everyone
think
in
to
agreement?
match,
I agree.
For sure.
That was a good cut. I never even noticed that. I don't know if anyone else did.
The post that's in the corner, I can't really tell what, it looks like it's more like the center post.
Yeah, I think the only one that, it looks like this corner one was just wrapped, I assume, from deterioration over time.
They just rewrapped it.
Yeah.
That corner post is going to have to get reconstructed anyway, because there'll be no building there. So,
Right.
on the right side of the picture.
Yes, this one, yeah. Okay, and then last question from Barrow are for the basement window wells. So currently, the two front-facing, the front facade basement window wells are filled with painted plywood. The question is, should they be filled in with CMU? You can kind of see them, so this one is especially just got plywood filled in with it. Obviously not necessarily great for weathering.
Yeah, and
That's a better photo of it.
that piping will be removed.
Right, they're no longer in use.
They'll be no longer needed.
Yes, so should that be replaced and infilled with CMU?
Is there any reason that we need the window wells? Can't they infill them with stone and point it out to match?
Yeah, we might want to scrape away some of the grade there anyway, so.
Yeah, I don't think
Probably
the,
be
yeah, the
removed.
window wells themselves are not necessary. I think we can remove the well. It's just what to fill in the gap in the
Infill
foundation.
the gap with stone, field stone to match the foundation and point it?
Were they not original?
The window wells?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Great question.
We unfortunately just
know.
don't really have good historic photos, so it's really hard to say. Obviously, they've been changed a lot over time as the house has had more utilities and items like that, like these pipes.
I think I'd agree about not using CMU, especially because it's on the front facade.
So the preference is no CMU and trying to match most closely to the existing fieldstone?
I just close them up. And, yeah.
Okay.
If possible. If they can't do it with the fieldstone, I'd almost rather see
A window?
a window or I don't know, a more durable plywood-ish material, but definitely not CMU. But I agree stone would be the best.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do that.
Great. That was all the questions from Barrow. So I think that is it for our Clark House discussion, unless anyone has any other questions or concerns.
Anything from the board? Okay, and thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
Very,
thank you,
very
Andrew.
helpful.
And we'll be back probably in a month or two to bring some more options in front of you.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
thanks a lot. Okay, we'll get back to the action items on the agenda. We have two proposals for certificates of appropriateness, and the first one is 2152 5 Mile Line Road. This is the one for two new basement egress windows that originally Megan had a lot of questions. I think we all had questions on it, but they really were around the port, which is going to be presented to us sometime later. So it's really just the two basement egress windows that we're going to talk about tonight. And you can't see them, you can't see the windows in the pictures. Maybe the top of one of them, but
Yeah.
they're in the circles there.
My sloppy circles, but yeah, so there are existing windows there. They're just not egress windows with wells. So this is a new homeowner who just purchased the property. They're just trying to expand the use of the house for their family. So I assume that they want to make the basement a more conditioned space. So adding egress windows into the basement to make it more usable and safe.
So right now, they have small windows, they want to make them deeper?
Yes, yep. So they're
And-
proposing two
And then
basement
are they-
egress windows.
Are they providing stair going up?
Let me see what they provided. So this
Next-
came across because of a building permit application. So this is what, excuse me, this is what the well will look like. Yeah, so this is pretty standard for egress windows today.
Right, and then they will have like captain's ladder going up?
Yeah, it looks like it, yep.
Oh, that's the ladder?
That's the ladder on the
Yeah, it's a
side.
little hard to see. Yeah, there is
Okay.
yes, it looks like a metal captain's ladder, kind of a thing. Yep.
Now, the construction of that isn't for us, it's for presumably
Yeah.
the town would.
Yep,
will
yeah,
go
so
through
this came to us through
how
a
it's
building permit application, and I am the building inspector who is handling the application. They won't get approved until you guys give the approval for the certificate of appropriateness, and then I will go through the standard process for the building permit with them.
Yeah, so we're really talking about the external appearance of the,
Exactly, yeah, it is an exterior change to the
It's on the
building.
front facade.
it's on the front facade, and they're pretty
Yes.
flat if I get my pictures right there.
So is this just for the window well portion or also for new windows?
So they'll have to put in new windows and the window well, because it will have to be big enough to get out of, to make it an egress window and exit.
Are there
yes.
windows on the backside where they could put an egress window in? Do they have to be on the front?
I'm not sure. I assume that the idea behind it is that there are already existing windows in this location of the basement. I haven't been in the house, so I'm not sure what the layout of is in the basement. I assume that this portion of the basement is the most usable space, and because there's already windows, it will be easier then to take that existing space and turn them into full egress windows, yeah.
Probably windows on the backside, too.
I assume so, I'm not sure.
Right.
Do we need more information? Because, well, you will not see them from the street, but coming to the house, I don't know, are they doing two window wells or one?
Two, they're proposing two.
So like they will have like two bedrooms and they will have a window?
I'm not sure what the plan is for the
Okay,
basement, but
We need more information with the plan of the basement to know. I mean, because by code, they don't need two unless,
oh, no, I know, yeah, but that's, yeah, so we're just worried about, that's for me to handle for the building inspection portion of things.
no, but what I mean is like, we could do like one window well, like on one side, but two? I mean,
I mean, if you guys think that 2 is too much, you're able to deny the application and, I can talk to them and get more information from them if you want. If you don't, I'll go through the building permit process with them as far as the use of the basement, conditioned space, and all of that information.
Do we have information on the windows themselves?
I think I just would like to see if there's windows on the backside and if there's any way that would fit into, you don't have a drawing for the basement layout yet?
No, this is all they submitted, was just for the egress window. We don't necessarily require them to do that for a building permit application like this. We would just be asking if they're turning the basement into a conditioned space, but I haven't reviewed the building permit application yet because they haven't gotten approval from you guys. I do not have a picture of the proposed window that they want to put in.
I would suggest, based on what we're saying here, that we go back to them, see if there are alternatives in the back. I mean, it could be from the laundry room, it doesn't make sense. There could be 2 rooms, so they need 1 egress in each room, but they should be able to provide those answers.
Okay.
And I think Mira may have already said it too, but if they can let us know what windows they're proposing to use, I guess.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments about this one?
It's a nice house.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting house.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, let's move on to 2179. And Shannon, I'm going to kick this to you to give us a little bit of a background
Sure.
on this.
So just as a background on the property for everybody, this house has been neglected for some time. In April, early April, it was posted not to be occupied by our fire marshal's office. It was brought to our attention that there was possibly a hoarding situation, lots of property maintenance issues. I do have some photos of these are photos from our fire marshal from when he did the inspection and posted the property not to be occupied because it was unsafe and unsanitary conditions. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of pictures of the exterior of the house, but you can see the condition of the yard. And then I do have photos of the interior, just as a heads up to everyone who's possibly a little queasy. It is a hoarding situation, so some of the photos are a little bit hard to see. But lots of damage to the interior. The floors were basically soaked through. I do have, you can see there's a plant growing through the window over here. And then this is a photo of the basement. You can see that the floors are just soaked through and very much so damaged.
Did you say somebody just bought it?
So the house went into foreclosure and somebody bought the house and is working on it. They did not know it was in a historic district. They did not know that it needed any kind of approvals. It was brought to our attention because it was kind of already on our radar for the not to be occupied. So we are having them get building permits. They redid the roof already. They did make some changes to the porch. They switched where the stairs are located. And they did change some of the window configurations. All things need building permits, and they're also doing work to the interior. So we're working with them on getting the building permits, which then triggered the need for exterior work for the certificates of appropriateness for the work being done.
How did they get the permit issued for the roof without it coming here?
It was an in-kind change, so the material and color stayed the same. Okay. So if people are doing regular maintenance to their historic homes, they don't have to come in front of the board. Okay. So that one didn't qualify for a certificate of appropriateness. That one just needed a building permit.
Is the new owner going to live there, or are they living?
He's undecided. I think it's kind of depending on how good of a condition he can get in it and how much work he has to put into it. He is basically having to gut the whole interior So I think he's undecided right now if he's going to keep it and live in it or flip it, probably based on how frustrated he gets with it.
So the rest of, aside from the roof, the rest of the exterior work was happening without a building permit?
The whole roof was replaced without a building permit. We are having them retroactively get the building permit for the roof, retroactively for the change of the stairs, because that is construction work. So we did have, and relates to code requirements, so we are having them get a building permit for that. Changes in windows is structural changes, that requires a building permit. And then they haven't fully decided what they're doing with the interior yet. They're gutting it and kind of seeing what they discover as they do the demo, and then they'll get building permits as needed from there, as far as whatever structural work they have to do on the interior for the building permits.
Are those vinyl railings they put up?
Yeah, yes.
Is that vinyl siding put on there, or is that the old siding?
No, this is the new vinyl siding. So this is about where they're in progress with right now. They're not completely finished with it, but this is about how far the progress is right now.
So where was the stair before?
The stairs were on
Over on
the
the right side.
Let me see, that's not a great
I
photo.
was about to ask the same question, because in the before photos from Street View, I don't see any stairs.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, they're on the right side.
they're on the right-hand side. I know they're hidden.
Hidden by the yew.
Yeah,
the yew bushes.
these photos from Google Earth are about 4 years old.
So if the work's done, what are you asking us as a board to do?
So basically, they need a certificate of appropriateness for the work being completed. Unfortunately, they didn't know that they were in a historic district and that they needed approval. So they are basically coming to the board retroactively to get permission to do the work. Unfortunately, that's already done. As a board, you guys can still deny the application. More likely than not, they would file a hardship because the amount of money to undo the work already done would obviously be extensive.
Was the siding before here, it looks like it was that early vinyl siding, so was it already vinyl?
I don't know for sure because I wasn't on site, unfortunately. Yeah, so we have this
A lot
photo.
of houses there
think when you
already
zoom-
have vinyl siding,
Yeah, I was going to
so
say, I
I
think when
wouldn't be
you zoomed in
surprised.
before.
The house next door probably has vinyl
Looks like
siding.
aluminum.
See if I can.
Well, this
Because it's
doesn't-
either metal or vinyl, but I think.
Here, we
with
have
the-
a close-up there.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
It looks like aluminum.
It doesn't.
This
Yeah.
It looks
looks
like
like
aluminum,
metal.
yeah.
Yeah, looks like aluminum.
Uh-huh. They did a nice job.
With the new work or the old work?
New work.
Here, let me pull that up again.
Well, we are in a difficult position here.
Yes,
because
it
we-
does put you guys in a difficult position, absolutely.
Yeah, having said that, this is a house that I know just by driving past it for years. It was just in horrible, horrible condition. And it maybe isn't what I would do if I was trying to refurb the house. I don't, there's a window on that, the street-facing gable that is either just covered up or it's not going to be there, which,
It looks like the hole is still there. It is a little bit hard to tell. It looks like it's currently just covered with the Tyvek wrap. And I did ask the homeowner, who is also the contractor, about changing the windows on this side facade here, and he did confirm that he changed them. Of course, we already know. But I, asked him what other work he was doing, and he had said nothing about this front gable
The front.
window.
How much of the vinyl is on the rest of the sides?
I think it's kind of the same all the way around. It's at this, kind of like the door height. And they maybe have done a little bit more since I took this photo, because I took this photo probably about a week ago, but I did drive by it today, and there is still, you can still see the Tyvek wrap. It's not fully sided yet.
I just wonder, even if we as a board decide to approve what they're doing, could we put in a stipulation that those side elevation windows be brought back to their original size? Or is that, I mean, is there already framing there and I guess it's never beyond the point of being able to turn around, but.
Yeah, we might find a compromise like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was aluminum siding before, like you said, a lot of the houses through there are vinyl sided. I mean, that doesn't mean that we would have to say yes to vinyl siding. I just feel like this is one of those situations where we're put between a rock and a hard place about what
Yes,
to do.
we are. With respect to changing the windows back to the original, I think we'd want to know what he's done inside to require the change. Because we could be asking him to do something that's, that's very expensive or changes his entire plan.
Yeah, I assume the changes to the window has to do with the interior plan and part of the demolition work. I assume it's part of the new program of the interior space that they're going for.
Do we know where the windows were originally?
I know you can't really tell with this photo.
Yeah,
Did you
I
find
went on-
something else?
Yeah, I went on to Google Street View and
Okay.
looked at it from
Yeah.
like the same angle. So both the windows that you see there that are slightly adjacent to and above the door were a little larger in height. And then there was, very oddly, and I don't feel like I've really seen this on a house like this very often, but above the window that's up above the door closest, yeah, where your pointer was up there, there was
Here.
a window kind of off-centered there, which I feel like I haven't really seen in a house, so I'm wondering if that was already a change that had been made a while back.
Yeah, and maybe that's why he got rid
Got
of
rid
that
of it.
window, because it didn't necessarily make
Yeah, it would have
sense in the
either been like
space.
sitting on the floor of the attic, or it was in a very weird location for a window there. I guess my main concern would be just making sure that the windows on the front gable are coming, like, that there will be, what is it? 2 of them, that they will be the
Yes.
same size they were. I'm just assuming the Tyvek hasn't been cut yet.
I assume so, since they haven't gotten that high with the siding. It looks like they're probably waiting for to trim and for the new windows before they cut it. But it looks like the hole is there, but I can absolutely confirm that they're not changing that front gable window.
Let's do that.
And I don't know why he would get rid of those windows, because I assume that you want windows in that interior space, but I'm happy to check.
Yeah.
And I guess, would we also want to see window specs then for all the new windows?
I think it would be my opinion that for any work that he does from here on out, that we're made aware of what it is. I think to suggest that we have him redo something is probably not appropriate at this point, but he's put a lot of money, will be putting a lot of money into this, just as it is.
Yeah, it's one of those complicated ones where, yes, he's improving the house, but maybe it's not the way that you guys would have necessarily approved if he had come to you with the proposal ahead of time.
There also wasn't much left on the exterior. I mean, aside from where window openings and door openings, where it doesn't really seem like there was much historic material left on the exterior that should have or could have been.
Yeah, I don't, Kathy, is there a way to figure out when it was built, how old the house is?
We can look and see if Spurgeon King put a date on it, or if we have it in our house files. I have a different concern. You said the new owner didn't know that it was in a historic district. A number of years ago, when Jim Costello still had your job, someone else said they didn't know they were in a historic house, and I suggested that the town see that Monroe County has it on every deed to every property that's either in a district or that's designated, and he said that was taken care of. So there's no reason not to know if it was taken care of.
Yes, so I talked to Tom about this before the meeting because that other property that we just looked at for the egress windows, they just bought that house and they also did not know they were in a historic district. Unfortunately, this information might be in the deed, but realtors are not disclosing the information before people buy the houses.
How about the
Jim had gone
attorneys?
through
Like your attorney would.
Yeah, it seems like the attorney, when the house is closed on, it seems like there should be some way to be sure, because you shouldn't have to come to this board on a property you bought if you have no idea that you bought it. On the other hand, we want to protect the historic property, so there's got to be a way to see that it's handled properly.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what we can do as the town as far as that. Unfortunately, I think because of the way that the housing market is, realtors are maybe not disclosing as much information as they should. People are not getting home inspections. The market is just kind of all over the place right now, and unfortunately impacting people who are buying houses, not realizing that they're even in a historic district, that they would need approvals. Any plans that they have when they buy the house may not be approved, all kinds of things.
But if it, I remember that well.
Yeah, I do too.
If we can check to make sure that Monroe County has the deeds appropriately noted, and I think at the time that Jim even went to any real estate company that he could find and explained to the agents.
It's a
that-
completely different story now.
I would
Yeah.
say a lot of.
Okay, it's a different story,
Yeah,
but.
a lot of real estate agents, they have no clue either. It's
they
why they
don't.
list every house as a colonial revival when it's not. But just to give all of you a heads up, it's in the very early stages, but just what you're talking about, real estate agents having to disclose that information. We're in the very early stages of a project working with a few counties, Monroe being one of them, where eventually, once this project gets put into a database, it will force real estate agents to select different historic designations on a property when it's for sale, so then nobody can say they don't know.
Okay, hurry up.
And that would cover the entire county?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yep.
That's a great project.
Isn't it the responsibility of the attorney to pick something like that up in there?
Well, they know, but they don't tell the client.
That's the thing, is that
Can
they're,
the client get a hold of the deed? I'm sorry. Can the client get a hold of the deed and review it himself to see if it's in there?
If he wants to.
Sure.
And then he would
unfortunately,
have-
with the speed that houses are selling right now, you have no time to look at anything before you put your money down. You put your money down without looking at anything, or you lose it right now. So that's unfortunately why I think we are going to be seeing this much more frequently until something is put in place to make realtors be accountable.
Is the historic designation put in the deed? It would be great if it was. I just have never heard of that before.
I
mean, I've
guess
heard
I'll
of
check on it.
covenants being on it because it's I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure how to check that, but I'll find out.
Yeah, houses have been flipped a whole bunch of times.
So as far as this property goes then, for the approval of the certificate of appropriateness, are you guys making a motion today to approve it as long as they are not changing that front window and coming to you for further approvals before the work is done? Or are you rejecting it for more information? What's the consensus today?
Well, I think we're approving the work that's been done up to today, and then with the contingencies that you just stated, that the window in front, we'd like to see that back. And if there's any changes coming down the line, that we were apprised of them
Okay.
in advance.
Is that everyone's understanding today?
And the side windows also, that we were talking about, was that?
So the side windows actually weren't in that application, so I can have them do a new application, or I can add it to the existing if you guys are comfortable with the approval of those windows.
I'd have him put it in, redo it, and put it in
Okay.
there so we understand what he's thinking about.
Okay,
Yeah,
and then
what-
just confirming they're not changing that front gable window.
Yes, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, when I was looking at Google Street View of this same view from before. I think there was also a window to the right of that door that's now covered, and I assume it's not coming back because where the siding goes up to already covers the lower portion of that window.
Okay.
So we had a discussion a few months ago when we approved another house on 5 Mile Line for vinyl siding, and we were going to look into the regulations and the requirements that I think the town of Pittsford had. And it seems like we're going down the road again now of approving another vinyl siding, vinyl railings, that has got nothing to do with historic preservation. And I understand the market is going crazy right now, and if they didn't, maybe they didn't know, but, you know, we do have a use of this board, and that's what we do. If we don't care, then, I don't know.
Well, I think the situation here is how far it's gone, and maybe it, as we said, isn't what we would prefer to have been done, but we're not willing to tell the person to stop and go back and do something else.
So I see like 5 or 6 squares siding up maybe. That doesn't seem like that's a whole lot. I'm not suggesting we tell them to tear it all off, but there's not that much done really on the siding.
Well,
It looks like it's about 8 foot around the house.
But the siding that was there wasn't wood before. We determined that it was metal.
Right.
I'm sorry?
As a board, would we approve vinyl siding if they came to us and they hadn't started the project and they said we wanted to put vinyl siding on it? I thought our previous discussions were that we would not.
Yeah, we'd have to see what the difference in cost was.
Right.
If it was too much, you know.
Right. I think the discussion kind of ended as that you guys would maybe take into consideration cost as part of your review, and that's the amendment that is being made to the town code.
Have they submitted any costs on this?
No, because this was all done after the fact. It's all done retroactively, so I was trying to get it in front of you guys as quickly as possible to get the approval before they got too far into the project, in case you guys did want them to stop the work.
And we didn't conclude that we would always require wood. That wasn't the case, because there's precedent, there's all the other houses that aren't wood.
I thought we agreed that we were going to mirror what the town of Pittsford required, but we were going to use cost as a more mitigating factor than anything else.
We're going to talk about it in a minute. It was the town of Parrington that
Oh, Parrington. Yeah, I think it was Pittsford we were talking about, though.
Changing the language in the code, so we are going to talk about that. But again, it's not so specific to say that it will always be wood.
I think that we decided it was going to be our call on the material. I mean, it certainly doesn't have to be wood, it could be hardy board, but I don't see how vinyl fits into the historic preservation.
It's basically your guys' opinion and up to you guys to discuss and decide.
I agree with you, Chuck. I think we can still say no, because I think if they came to us ahead of time, I don't think vinyl would have been appropriate to approve. And even though it was aluminum before, not the historic wood clapboard siding that likely would have been there, well, we couldn't necessarily, we wouldn't necessarily force them to use real wood. I do think there's other things like hardy board and similar siding materials that are more appropriate in a historic district with vinyl, or than vinyl. I think even the argument of saying that the other houses surrounding it are already vinyl sided, I don't think that that's necessarily justification to approve it on this or any other property, because that kind of defeats the purpose of our board. Then we're saying, well, if everyone else did it, we'll just allow it to keep happening, which then why do we have a preservation board? What are we preserving? If we just let everything go. So I'm not sure. I feel bad that he's gone this far. I just don't know what kind of precedent that sets when we start approving vinyl siding. Everyone's going to come into us after the fact then and say, well, I didn't know, and think that we'll approve it every single time, which is a very slippery slope to.
That's why it would be really good to have a book of standards for houses of certain eras or, districts, or whether they're designated, what is appropriate for that, you know, what the parameters would be as far as windows and siding and roofing materials, then you have something in writing, and then it's proof. I mean, no one can argue about it because it's actually what's been decided, but it would take this board sitting down and deciding what should be in it. And if other towns have that, I know Cape May has it, but they have a lot of various different eras of buildings. But it would require sitting down and actually coming up with all the different standards.
Yes,
I
and
think we touched on that when we started talking about it, and that's why we had they circulated the standards at Pittsburgh.
right, so I looked at the Historic Preservation Board, the surrounding towns in Monroe County who have historic preservation boards, and looked at their ordinances for the board and for their criteria for certificates of appropriateness, and ours is very comparable to all of them. So all of these other boards are basically using the same criteria that we are. And that, aside from that one amendment that we found from the town of Perrington, kind of talking about taking cost into consideration. So, you know, we don't necessarily have a reference as far as another town in Monroe County. It's not that we can't do it, but it's a big project and a lot of decisions to be made.
Yeah, I feel like it could be that maybe we want design guidelines written for the town of Penfield. Of course, that requires hiring a consultant to do that. But a good example right around us would be the city of Rochester. They have some pretty good design guidelines that walk through specific elements of the building and what would be appropriate. And sometimes what would be appropriate within specific historic districts too. So, but that's kind of separate from the ordinance. It's separate but connected to the ordinance. And that helps both the property owner and the board have a better understanding and justification for what they're proposing and what they're approving.
And Penfield's always been a leader. I think we had the first historic preservation board in the county, if not one of the first. So this board could be a leader in coming up with actually written guidelines as well.
Okay. So as far as this decision goes,
Let's get back to that.
basically, obviously, it doesn't have to be a unanimous decision as long as the majority approves or denies. So basically, it comes down to if someone is willing to make a motion and second, then we'd have a vote. And that can be a motion to approve or a motion to deny.
So a motion to approve with those contingencies we talked about.
Correct, yes.
Do we have a motion?
I second your motion.
So that was my motion?
What's
You
the motion?
seconded that?
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
What is the motion that you're voting on?
The motion is to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the work that's been done so far, with the contingencies being that the window in the upstairs road-facing gable is replaced. It may be just covered, but we want to see that window there. And any further changes that have not been identified to us are brought to us for approval.
Can he come here with a drawing to show us what he wants to do? In other words, these contingencies, you accept what's done, but you have the contingencies. Can he
Can you
come here?
please speak in-
I'm sorry. Can he come here with a certificate showing us the changes he's going to make based on the contingencies as part of the new, maybe a new certificate of appropriateness? Are you with me?
No.
No. You're putting contingencies in this, which has to do with windows?
The only contingency would be that the front gable window remains.
Oh, okay.
I think
And
you're
that-
probably asking.
That doesn't
if we
require
wanna
a drawing then?
see A drawing with the rest of, like, what does this look like? What are all the windows? Because even on the side elevation, there's no windows there now, so what will those be? I mean, if we were to vote to approve what he's already done with contingencies that the windows have to stay, could it be that we're approving the work already, potentially approving the work already done, but that he has to come back in to show us the windows that he's using, what that front, because even the front window on the first floor under I know it's probably just blocked with that plywood, but we can't see it and don't know what's there because it's not a very detailed application at all. So I feel like contingencies isn't really enough to go off of.
Right, it wouldn't really be a contingency. We would approve whatever you guys would include in this scope, and then if you don't want to approve the windows right now, you don't have to. We can have them come back for another application for those windows in question.
Okay. How does
He's
he
already
get,
changed the windows, right? So you can't give him a
No, the
building
ones on the
permit on
gable.
that. He's already, I thought you said he'd already reframed them from,
I assume he's reframed them because they're different size.
okay.
I agree with that. Second.
And is the town
I
going to sign
agree.
up for structural changes without a permit? And then
We're
we can-
having him get a building permit.
so
Yep.
how is he getting permit without drawings?
I'm not handling the building permit. My boss
Okay.
has. It has been escalated to the department head to handle this situation because we did not get a building permit before some of the work was done. So it is being handled by my department head, who is a building inspector. So he's handling all of that, all of that stuff. I'm actually going to give him a report on everything we talked about tonight after this meeting so that he's prepared and knows, what to go to the contractor with.
I was just wondering, maybe he has drawings for the building and we would like to see them.
I unfortunately doubt it. This is a project that, they are kind of figuring out as they go because they're doing a lot of demolition and they just don't know what they're going to find until they tear things apart. And because of the scope of work, I would be very doubtful that they have formal drawings.
I'd like to put forth another motion that we table it for right now and try to get drawings and plans from what the rest of the work's going to be, that we could approve.
Oh,
I would think if you could get a drawing of what the final result of his project will be, would be helpful to make a decision. Accept what's there,
I'll try, but I'm very doubtful I will get that information.
then you can't go any farther.
well, if he doesn't know what's going to be uncovered with demolition, but he probably has something in his head, or what they want to do, 2 bedrooms, like 2 bathrooms. Maybe he
Yeah,
can
but that's-
just do a chicken sketch.
Right, but we would only be concerned about the exterior, so
Right.
kind of gets a little iffy. I
Yeah.
don't think we can
So
require interior
So we need to
drawings.
see locations of the windows and all of that.
Shannon, is there any chance that he would come in to talk to us?
I don't know. I'm doubtful, and to be completely frank, I don't think it will go very well.
I'll second Chuck's motion. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Okay, so is
Let's not
there,
anyone else for coming in and just starting the project quickly and getting enough of it done and it costs too much to remove it. Claiming ignorance is, to me, not an excuse.
You guys do have some teeth in the building code. Stop work orders. You're telling us that he won't come in and he won't provide drawings?
My boss is handling that. That's not for me to say as far as what we're requiring for the building permit process. I'm not sure what is going on with that process.
But we're requiring, well, if the motion passes, then we're requiring it for the Preservation Board purposes.
Okay.
is there a danger that they will just drop everything and leave the house alone and leave?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I feel like it's perfectly acceptable for us to kind of go with the motion that Chuck made, because we're not saying no to what he's already done necessarily yet. We just want to see the final of what the exterior, we can ask for interior. But what is the final plan for the exterior? They have to have a final plan for the exterior because they're already siding it, so they must know what they're doing.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they
think
have a
that-
plan, but they're not going to have like renderings.
Right, and I mean, I don't think we necessarily would have to have professional architect drawn drawings, because I think sometimes when you're looking at where they are the building owner and the contractor, they often aren't working with an architect, so they're just building. But I think even if he could bring in just hand-drawn to the best of his ability sketches showing us what they're
Maybe just taking this photo and drawing on it.
Yeah, and I think just getting a better clarification of, why the one window on the side facade was completely covered over, because like I said, the siding's already up past maybe where half the window was before, and why the other ones were made smaller. I know we can't make decisions on the interior, but as it impacts the exterior, we can, for the exterior purpose, or the exterior portion of it. And maybe it's that it's not a big deal because it's a side elevation, but I do think that, for me personally, I think before I can really say that I would be okay with any of this, I'd want to see what is the sum total of what's being done. And I'm just concerned that because there's already vinyl siding going up, that we're going to see vinyl windows go in.
Of course you'll see vinyl windows. We have approved vinyl windows before.
Well,
Okay, so is the motion to table?
That was my motion, but I think Tom's got a motion that we never acted on, so something's got to happen with that as well.
Unless
Unless Tom
Tom
modifies.
changes his mind after this discussion.
well, it has to be you have to vote it down, I think, before you can address another motion.
Did you have a second?
Where you could change your motion
Right,
if you wanted to.
or withdraw? I guess
I
it
think
depends on if you still want to go forward with your motion.
I'm not sure how to answer that, because I feel for the position that you're in of telling someone who is uncooperative that they can't go ahead for one reason or another is going to create an issue for you. And so where are we?
That's
Where
my
are we
job.
then?
Well, maybe we don't wait a month. Maybe they just give you information within a few days and you distribute it with us and we'll look at it. Because if they're concerned about time waiting for
Well, I
another
think
month-
that's the other thing, is that they haven't stopped work, and they're not necessarily going to stop.
Without a permit, maybe just a stop work order goes out or something? Or is that up to the town to make that decision what they want to do?
Yes, so that would be up to my boss to make that decision.
Well, I'll withdraw my motion, because I don't disagree with what Chuck is suggesting. I'm just not sure what that means we can expect the next day. So we
So if you
table.
table it, you're just putting it off till another meeting, but does that mean he's going to stop working?
Well, Shannon is saying no.
So it doesn't really accomplish anything.
All we could do is request what we want, and either it's going to be provided and the town's going to move ahead either with a stop work order or allow it to proceed. Is that the case?
So basically, the town can post a stop work order for the work being done at the house. However, siding is not a permittable, it doesn't require a permit to change siding. So even if we post a stop work order, they can continue with the siding, and I'm not sure what we can do about that.
So, I
are
mean,
there no-
if the board then, the preservation board, approves something, they don't do it the way we approved it, there is no repercussions?
So if something was approved and they don't do it the way that it was approved, then we would their certificate of appropriateness is invalid.
And then what?
They'd come back to the board for approval of what they actually did, and then you guys either approve or deny. The whole thing is that you can always deny. What typically will happen, though, is if it's denied, they will file a hardship, because that's the natural progression of it. I've never handled one, so I don't exactly know the full process and how it works, and what the outcome normally is for that. So I'm not sure.
That was my concern earlier, is just someone go ahead and claim ignorance and go ahead and complete as much as they can, but that would be too costly for them to move it because of the hardship or remove it. And then it's like, there's really nothing we can do.
I feel like us as the preservation board, as much as I feel bad for the town staff who have to deal with it on that end, I mean, our job is to decide whether or not it's historically appropriate in a locally designated historic district. So I feel like even if they are going to come back and submit for hardship, I mean, then I guess let them, because I'm still sticking, I think Steve's saying the same thing. If we start this now, everyone else is going to do it. It becomes precedent. And then, in my mind, and I've said this to other preservation boards too, then what is the point of the preservation board? Because, I don't know. So I kind of feel like, for me, coming from our end, if they want to submit for hardship because we denied it, then let them. But I wouldn't approve it just because they'll come in and submit for hardship.
It's their right to do that, so.
Yep, absolutely, and that doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily something that you guys even have to take into consideration. I mean, it shouldn't change your decision.
I guess maybe, maybe we would approve it, I don't know. But I'd like to see, more of a completed plan or design than, try to figure out what's going to look like from, half-done project.
So can we say that, well, again, that goes for table, before issuing, we're not denying it, but before issuing certificate of occupancy, certificate of appropriateness, we need to see the drawings and some kind of what's going on in the exterior of the building.
Okay.
Is that what you said, you want to say, Chuck?
I didn't catch everything you said, I'm sorry.
I think I practically reiterated what you said.
Okay.
Well, okay, so you
So, yes.
said to table it, and everyone's agreeing that we'll table it, but there has to be something after that. We'll table it until something happens.
We have something to look at.
Yeah.
We've
Until
got
we
to
get the
supply
drawings.
submittals for the windows, and I would think, and we need to see the window designs and where they're going, and
Yeah, and just clarification.
get rid of the plastic on the porch. I think there's a lot of things that they would have to submit. And if I'm hearing you guys right, you think he's just going to continue to do the work anyway. So if I was in the building department as a code enforcement officer, I would put a stop work order on that and get his attention. And then if he doesn't have stop for that, I mean, I hate to do it, but otherwise we don't really have any use as a board. If there's no teeth in what we're saying, then let them vinyl side everything. I don't, but if there is options, I think that's what we're here for. And I'm fine with meeting on site, anytime before, we don't have to necessarily wait another month if he's got stuff to submit.
Well, we have.
You're going to make your motion?
And
Table it?
Shannon, do you have enough
I
of
did.
what comes after the,
Yes.
All right.
I seconded it.
and we got a
You
second?
second it? Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Okay. Let's see, we did have one other item, a couple of other items. the town code amendment, which was what came up for the criteria for a certificate of appropriateness, and I made a couple of notes on that. And this was noted in the April minutes that we approved before. It has to do with the change that, or the addition that we are suggesting take place in the section of the town code that's called the Historic Preservation Overlay District. There's a section in there, Section F, which is the criteria for issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. And there currently there's two subsections to that. One is how, in sort of in general terms, how we evaluate the changes to the exterior of a building. Things like compatibility with the historical character, whether there's been any historical features that have been altered. The second subsection is how we evaluate the compatibility of those proposed changes to the structure that's either it's a designated structure or in the preservation districts. Things like the general design, the scale, and the size of the changes, materials, color, etc. And then I didn't want to read the whole thing, it was rather lengthy, but we were suggesting to be added, and this came from the Parenton code, and we thought made sense. And I will read that. It would be number 3 underneath that section F. Special considerations for existing buildings. For existing buildings, the Historic Preservation Board shall consider the availability of materials, technology, and craftsmanship to duplicate existing styles, patterns, textures, and overall detailing. When several acceptable alternatives are appropriate, cost may be considered by the Historic Preservation Board. So it's basically to give us some additional direction with respect to what this board could make decisions on relative to changes that have been suggested. It doesn't get as specific as what I think Kathy was talking about. It's not saying it has to be this, it has to be that, but just to give us some flexibility in reviewing what's presented to us. And we sort of talked about that for a couple of times the past couple of months. That needs a vote from the town board to change the town code. And that's going to happen in another month?
So any changes to the town code require a public hearing. So there's a public hearing to receive comments and input on the proposed changes, and that's on June 5th at 6:30 right here in the Town Hall auditorium. Basically, the town board will take any comments or questions about the changes, and then after that, they will take the public input, and then they will make a final decision as to whether or not it is included and added to the town code.
And will Kevin be presenting that?
I'm not sure.
No.
I'm not sure who's in charge of that.
Okay, any questions about that? Just to add a little bit more specificity.
Yeah, I want to ask Megan, the word duplicate existing, is that the right word? Maybe we should better use to be in kind with?
Yeah, I guess in kind is normally the preservation language that I've always heard and used. But
Yeah, this was taken straight from the town of
Duplicate is
Harrington
very
code.
rigid,
Yeah.
right?
I actually had the same concern, if you want to call it that, and then maybe replicate would be a better word. The duplicate does mean sort of exact. It's got to be precise. But
Maybe replicate. I'm asking you, you have more experience with preservation.
I guess if we're talking about materials or features being replaced. I mean, generally, I'm using the Park Services language here, is it's always been the word of in keeping. It should be in keeping with, that's kind of what the Secretary's standards say. And that way, it gives us a little bit more room that in keeping with means it needs to look like, act like,
Oh, I
feel
like in keeping with.
the original, but it gives us that wiggle room to allow like an alternative material. I feel like duplicate or replicate means it has to be exact.
Right.
So in keeping, for example, would allow us to say, like the house we just looked at, it had aluminum siding, it originally would have had likely wood siding, but it's not there now, so maybe we would have said party board siding is in keeping with the historic character of the house, instead of replicating, because then that would force them to use wood.
Right. I like this, I agree. Can you change that?
Well, it's not up to me to change, I don't think,
Why?
at this point. I understand that, can you put that up on the screen, or is that available?
I don't,
What?
'Cause I
Oh, here
think
it
it
is.
would be just changing the words "to duplicate" to be "in keeping with." So it'd be craftsmanship, materials, technology, and craftsmanship in keeping with existing styles, patterns, as opposed to duplicate existing styles. And I'm fine with it. I think that provides better flexibility than copying, if you will.
I don't know the process for that, but I think I have to check with the town attorney.
But we are amending
the wording.
it now, right? So now is the time to do it.
Yeah, now for sure is the time to do
Yeah.
it, because it's still a proposal.
Right.
But whether, I don't know what has to go through. It has to go through the attorney. But is there any other reviews, approvals?
I'm not really sure. This isn't something that I don't normally do town code amendments. That's handled by Carrie Ivers, so I will reach out to her and see what that process is like, if it's a easy change or if we can get it done in time.
It's 3 words. Tell Carrie it's 3 words.
I'm hoping it's easy. I just don't know, because it's a legal thing.
All right, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. Jenna, did you want to talk about the Jeff Crane Award? Or-
Yes. So we still haven't officially announced the recipient of the award, because I have been working to try and figure out a time that we can present the award to them in an official manner. Just been having a little difficulty finding a time that works for everybody with schedules and things. So unfortunately, we're not going to, obviously, there's one more day of May. We're not doing it in May. We wanted to do it during Preservation Month, but I think we're probably going to have to push it out to the fall. But I'll keep you guys updated, and then once we get a date finalized, we can officially announce who the recipient is. But they are excited to receive it, and they are accepting of the award. We just have to kind of iron out all the details before we make it official.
Shannon, will there be a recognition like we've had before, not just of the Jeff Crane Award, but of people in historic houses and in information, again, educational programming or anything?
I don't know how often we wanted to do those programs. I think we kind of decided that maybe every year would get a little bit repetitive. I don't know if we're thinking every other year, every 3 years.
Well, I was just thinking of mailing out postcards to everyone that's in either a historic house or in a district, and stating something to the fact that because you are in a historic building, a designated building, or you're in a district, if there's not going to be an educational gathering, they could be invited to come to see the Mark Crane Award, just to get that information out to them, basically telling people, so there's no excuse that you don't know that you're in a historic either a district or a designated building.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to send out postcards specifically inviting people who are in a district or have an individually designated house. We did that for the Preservation Appreciation Day as well, so we can do that same thing. I think I also included the houses that are not designated but were identified in the Spurgeon King report, just as a little nod, like, hey, you're in a historic house even though it's not designated, kind of a thing, because those are good people to get involved in the community and maybe designate their own homes.
Okay, good suggestion, thank you. And I think we should also talk about the next meeting, which would be on the 4th of July, which isn't going to work, and probably the 5th of July isn't going to work either. But given that what we were talking about tonight, we may have something important to discuss, and we don't want to put it off until August.
Right.
So what, could people look at their schedules for the Wednesday?
I have to, before you guys do that, I have to make sure that the auditorium is available and that PCTV is available. So I have to do a lot of other things first. So what I can do is, I agree, we probably do need a possibly late June, early July meeting, depending on when the timeline works out, like this one. But what I can do is send you guys a couple of dates possibly that will work once I check all of the schedules for availability and everything, if that works for everybody. Because I think we do need a meeting in the next month, shouldn't put it out.
Yeah.
Are we able to meet on site at this applicant on 5 Mile Lane? Or does that have to become a public meeting with?
If there are more than 3 board members, it is an official meeting that has to be open to the public and has to be recorded with meeting minutes.
Get security.
Because that seems like that would be an easy way to at least move that project along if we.
I mean, you guys are welcome to visit the site at any time. I don't know if we can all go.
Right. We'd have to go in groups of 3.
Yeah, I made for one.
Yeah, any more than 3 board members is technically an official meeting.
So we can never go out and have a beer together.
I'll have to take meeting minutes.
Okay, any other things for discussion?
The only other thing is that I know we're at the end of May, but May is Historic Preservation Month. So I took the National Trust for Historic Preservation sent out an email about Historic Preservation Month, so I just wanted to read it to everybody real quick. So it says, May is Historic Preservation Month, a time dedicated to honor and reflect on the critical work being done to protect and preserve our nation's historic treasures. This month serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of our shared commitment to safeguarding the cultural heritage that defines and enriches our communities. Historic Preservation Month offers a unique opportunity to highlight the successes of our preservation efforts and to draw attention to the various challenges that we face. So it's a thank you to the community who works to make our jobs a little bit easier and coming forward to the board and getting their approvals and doing all the work that they can to maintain their historic houses, and a thank you to you guys as board members to also put in that same work.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. We need a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
And a second, thank you.
Great, thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you to PCTV.